the actual night of the call. They can access the call later. And we do have our past calls for all recorded as well. And if you need any of those, you can always contact me. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Andrea Marwa. She was first and foremost a parent of a child with hearing loss. And through her family's journey, she's come to wear many hats. She's president of our Illinois Hands and Voices chapter, a parent guide with our Illinois Guide by Your Side program. She teaches her parent advocacy workshops throughout the state, and she's also a new consultant with the HVEIO team. So that is probably just a small handful of the hats she actually wears. But we are very lucky to have her share with us tonight how to advocate and be an advocate and while maintaining those school relationships. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Andrea.
Thanks, Carrie. Well, welcome, everyone. I heard a lot of very familiar names, so you've all heard me talk about this, and when it comes to advocacy, no matter if I'm teaching the legal aspects of IEP, 504s, whatnot, I always drive home the importance of protecting the parent-school relationship. It is the most imperative relationship you will have pertaining to your child's educational future. So we're going to talk about, why we need that, ways to make sure that you have that in this call. I couldn't possibly touch on everything that I would like to teach you, but hopefully I'll be able to schedule a class soon in the Chicagoland area as well as down in the Springfield area so that I can teach you more. You can always contact myself or Carrie, as she said, if you have any questions. So I will go ahead and get started. I want to start out by just saying a bit of the verbiage that's in the law, in the IEP law and the IDEA that protects you as a parent. Every child has the right to a free, appropriate public education. These, with our children who have special needs, need to include specially designed instruction to meet their unique needs. The law stipulates that a child is entitled to these unique needs, these unique benefits of theirs, these little intricacies that make their education work. How I always explain it, and the best way that I can visualize it is their leg up so that they have an equal playing field. If they do not have the supports that they need to bring them up to the average student within their district, then they're not getting an appropriate public education. So the law is there to protect you as a parent, but more so your child as a student. You, as a parent, your new job now, besides parent, besides breadwinner, is advocate. So an advocate basically means to go to bat or to go to argument for another, to make sure that another's rights are protected and another's rights are met. So keep that in mind. When you consider yourself now where your child's educational future is concerned, you are an equal, viable member of the IEP team. That means that you have as much say as anyone at that table, no matter what letters, no matter what degrees they hold that are behind their name. It doesn't matter. You as a parent have as much legal rights as they do at that meeting to display and to voice your concerns and your considerations for your child. Now, there's right and wrong ways to go about doing that. First of all, the number one thing that I always try to tell anyone when it comes to advocating for your child is to remove the word best from your vocabulary. As I mentioned just a moment ago, the law provides your child an appropriate public education, an equal public education to every other public educated student. If you ask for the best, that's not what you're going to get. Now, I always say this as well. I always have it in my mind that I want the best for my child because I do. But when it comes to education and when it comes to playing the cards right, you want to make sure that you say, I want what is appropriate for my child. I want what my child needs to succeed with his peers. Not with his hearing loss peers, with his peers. His disability should have nothing to do with his educational future. So keep that in mind. Try and eliminate the word best, even though that's what we want. Just substitute it with appropriate. It's just going to bode better for you if you do that. Now, how do you maintain this advocacy skill? First of all, it's always being the nice guy, and I'll hit on that many, many times. It's not being the doormat, but it's being the nice guy. It's being the person that is willing to listen. It's being the person that is willing to see the supports and services that the school is presenting to you. But it's also being willing to say, you know, I think that there are other options out there that I would like to explore for my child. These are the options. These are the things that I have found in my research that will help my child to succeed in the class. Those are the things that you need to bring to the table. You have every legal right to tell the school and to offer the school other options where your child is concerned. If they do not agree, they need to tell you why they don't agree. And if they don't agree, say for instance you wanted to place your child in a different school and they just don't agree with it. And you say, well, I think that this is a more viable option for my child and these are the reasons why, but no one from the district has even visited that program, then that's where you need to go and say, okay, help me understand here how a decision can be made or how you can base a decision when you haven't even seen the program, you haven't even seen what they have to offer. So keep all of that in your head anytime that you are talking with them. You want them to always explain to you why something that you are putting out on the table is not a good reason. And if they don't come up with anything, then you need to keep asking until you get the answers that you need. It'll happen, and they will consistently, if they feel, and some school districts are like this, not all of them, but some school districts have what they call a one-fits-all program. So they think, okay, your child has a mild to moderate hearing loss. This is where all our children who have mild to moderate hearing losses go. This is the program that they do. We've watched it work. It's a viable program. It's exceptional, yada, yada, yada. But for your family, maybe that modality or method or communication mode that they are using is not what you have chosen for your family. Well, as a family, you have a say in that. So therefore, you need to try and make them see that, yeah, it is a great program for a family that is choosing that method and that modality. However, as a family, we have chosen to do this, and we found that this program works better. Notice it's not the fact of going in there and saying, no, I don't like your program. It's not what my child wants. My program is just better. That's where we want them to go. It's received much better when you ask them to explain, when you ask them why they think that their program is going to benefit your child, and you get the answers that they are looking that they give you, and you keep asking questions. I guess the best way to put it is, don't go into a meeting receiving answers, not being satisfied, and walking out the door, because you won't be happy with the placement of your child if that's the case. Always ask for more information. Chances are at the meeting sometimes you can't get more information, and that's probably because the person at that table doesn't have the authority to give you more information. So, at some point it's probably time to just call it and leave the meeting and then contact someone and say, I just feel that something that I spoke about at the meeting was not addressed. Could you explain it to me, or if you cannot, could you tell me who can? I'm not being aggressive. I'm not saying, I don't know who this person is. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm actually being kind of like the project manager of my child's educational future. I'm making, an assessment, and I'm stating that something didn't work. Who's the go-to person to make that work? Okay, when anything comes to your child, and I go through this with the legal aspects of my education as well, always keep written records, especially any time that you've had conversations, email records, things like that. You want to make sure that you keep them for multiple reasons. First of all, if things go bad, which hopefully they don't, but if they do, they're going to be needed for proof or for legal reasons. But more so, the reason that I recommend to keep written records is because sometimes, or most of the time, when it deals with our children, these are stressful situations, and we may forget what we agreed upon or what they agreed upon. It's also a great way for you to go back and confirm that, oh, yeah, that's right, that's what was said, or, oh, that's right, that's the person that I was supposed to talk to. The more records and the more detail you keep with those records, the more likely you are to get to the right person, to get to the right answers. All right, a good quote. Raising a child is hard work. If you have a child who learns differently, has a disability, or has special needs, you work harder and you work longer. And that is very, very true for any of you who have been in this game for a little while. You know that that is extremely true. We will work very, very hard. The more you advocate for your child, the more your child sees you advocating for them, because the goal in the end is to make your child able to advocate for themselves, because for the rest of their lives they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to ask for repetition. They're going to ask for clarity. They're going to need to make sure that their interpreter is doing the right job for them. There's so many things that they're going to have to be able to tell people in the future. And if they watch you be a strong, politically correct advocate for them, you're their role model in this, and that's what they're going to learn. Okay, so understanding the school's position will help you to understand what their role is, so that you know what your part in it is. Public schools typically offer standardized curriculums that children are expected to learn. The IEP allows you to tweak those curriculums so that your child can be educated with the average everyday child at that school. School districts also have a chain of command. Most frequently, that person is not sitting at your table, the person that can make the decision. So know that if you're at an IEP that's difficult and things are just not going in the right direction, feel comfortable enough and feel like a part of that team that you can say, you know what, I feel like we're kind of going around in circles here. Are you unable to answer this question? And if you're not, who can do it? Who should we call? Feel comfortable in saying that. These are nerve-wracking meetings. They really, really are. But the more comfortable, or the more you realize that you are a part of that team, the better off you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be, and more comfortable you're going to be able to say to them, hey, this just doesn't seem right, help me understand it. All right, understand that power flows from the top. Teachers and parents don't have the authority to make the decisions that involve a commitment of resources. You can request them, but you can't say, I want my child to have a private aid all day long, because they may not offer that in the school. They may not have the resources to get that. Now, if your child truly needs it, then you're going to fight for that. But keep in mind that chances are you can't make that decision. You can't demand it. You can't tell them this is going to happen, because the team has to agree upon a resolution. The team has to agree upon what's going to work right for your child in the educational setting. There's always invisible members that have power to make those decisions. One of the best things you can do is try to find out who those invisible members are. It's typically your director of special ed, the big players that sit at the district offices within your school district. It's good to know who those people are. I've known many people who have just gone to their office before their initial IEP and introduced themselves. Hi, I'm Andrea. My daughter Samantha is going to be coming into your district, and I really just wanted to, say hello and, let you know we're coming in, and that, if you have any questions for us, we're here. Then, if anything should come across their desk, hey, they met you. Wait a minute, I met this person. If you're comfortable doing that, then certainly do that. We did. My husband and I, gosh, it's almost 9 years ago, we went to our district offices and we met with the person that was the person that could say yes and make those decisions. Now, there's in the rights law books, which I use a lot for my curriculum, for my courses, they talk about the gatekeeper. And there is a gatekeeper within every meeting, and that is typically the person that has the authority to say yes. But they also, their job is to say no. So know that a lot of times in these meetings, they have a laundry list of things they can say yes to, and they have a laundry list of things they're supposed to say no to. Your job is to convince them to the yes and why. And the more facts that you have to base your opinions on, or if you want something, the more facts you have to support that, the better off you're going to be to get that gatekeeper to change their wording from no to yes. Okay, school policies, they can't make exceptions. They have one-size-fits-all. If you don't know what a one-size-fits-all is, it's basically where, I had mentioned it just a moment ago, all of our children that have mild to moderate hearing losses go to this school, and that's what we do, and that's just it. Many, many school districts have that. Many do, even here in the Chicagoland area. And I can tell you from experience with working in the entire Illinois state that here in the Chicagoland area, we are much more better off than they are in the southern part of the state, where in the southern part of the state the resources are less because they're more spread out. Here in the Chicagoland area, it's more often that you'll have more students that attend your district that have hearing loss than in the southern parts of the state. So in the southern part of the state, it's more challenging. You really need to know your stuff going into those meetings. You really need to understand the legal aspects of the IEP and the IDEA so that you understand what is legally entitled to your child. And those are the things that you need to start brushing up on so that you're ready to be a good advocate for your child. Okay, I just have 10 reasons why schools say no. And the reason that I'm going to share these in the advocacy component of this is because in order to advocate, you need to know, well, what are the most likely things that a school is going to say no for? And the rights law books, there are 3 different books that I have read on IEPs that have this 10 reasons. One is they do not want to change. They have been doing XYZ for a number of years. It's worked for them. Why change it? They do not want to make exceptions because if they make an exception for little Johnny, then little Billy is going to come along and they're going to have to make an exception for him too. They're afraid of setting a precedent. They do not have a program for your child. That is one of the scariest things for a school district because they do not know what to do. They're committed to their one-size-fits-all services. They believe the services are too expensive that you are asking for. They are overwhelmed by your child's needs. They just don't know what to do. They do not understand the legal requirements. The staff is not trained to meet your child's needs, or they do not have the staff to meet your child's needs. Believe it or not, that happens quite often. Okay, so dealing with stress. Raising a child is very stressful. Raising a special needs child can be overwhelming as well. If you are not careful, special education can consume your life. Many parents drive themselves until they are exhausted and burned out. Try to take time for yourself. The best way to make sure that you're a good advocate is to be a well-rested, unstressed parent. So the more you can, or the better you can get closer to that, the better off you're going to be. Now, a recommendation that I agree with in some of the books that I've read is to think of yourself, and I know it's not easy to do this, but think of yourself as the manager of your child's educational future. And in that, there are 5 elements to a master plan. So you're going to make a master plan, and you're going to determine, okay, what is my vision statement? Where do I want to see my child in the future? And then again, a mission statement. Okay, so the mission of this IEP world that we're entering into is this. What are the goals that I have for my child? Now, I can tell you in every IEP that you attend, you are going to have to tell them the goals that you have for your child. These goals should range from, I want them to be in a class with children that are just like them. I want them to have friends. I want them to, go through 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. I want them to graduate from high school. I want them to have a college degree. I want them to get married and have children. All of those goals should be there because it's not just to finish school. We want them to be self-sufficient, happy, healthy adults. So put that in your goals and have it written down in your home. I mean, if you have that written down in your home, it allows you to advocate for them because they're the goals that you're trying to reach. Strategies. What strategies are you going to use to get the child from A to B? What is it that you need to do? And then timelines. I would like my child to accomplish this in this amount of time. If you have realistic timelines, those can be utilized to help to write your goals and your IEPs. So keep that in mind as well. Know the rules of the game. Here's a very important thing. When you are a good rule follower, you're on time for meetings. You're not late. You're prepared for your meetings too. You present your concerns and your problems in writing. You don't bring them up the day of the meeting. You make sure that everyone is well aware of your concerns prior to that meeting. If you've invited people to your meeting, you contact the school and let them know. I've invited our private therapists to come into our IEP meeting. That way they're not shuffling around chairs that last day. You're being a good advocate. You're being a good advocate for your portion of that IEP team. You're keeping an open mind. You'll learn from your experiences if you keep an open mind. If you go in very rigid saying it's my way or the highway, you're going to be highly disappointed. You need to go in, and I always say have a laundry list of things that you want for your child and know which things on that list you're willing to live without and which things you're not willing to live without. And have realistic expectations also. We would all love for our child to have a one-on-one aid, but truly, does our child need a one-on-one aid? Those are the questions that you need to ask yourself, and those are the things that you need to go to that meeting prepared with. Be realistic. It's very, very important. Okay. Now, methods of documentation. I recommend having contact logs, telephone logs, whatever you need, just so that you are always prepared and always ready to advocate for your child. Without the information, you can just be speaking off the cuff and you can misspeak many times over. Or you've just forgotten something that happened already and you're talking and saying, well, I can't believe this hasn't happened, and there's an email in your inbox that says that it did happen. So you want to make sure that you have all of the information. One of my big recommendations is if you have caller ID in your home, utilize caller ID. If someone contacts you from your school district and you're really not ready for that call, you have, your arms are filled with groceries and you've just walked in the door, let it go to voicemail. Chances are they don't have a ton of time in the school district either. They're going to ask what they need on that voicemail. It allows you to prepare. It allows you to be ready to return that call to them. So you sound like that very level-headed person instead of answering the phone, juggling the milk carton and the bags of groceries. So, hello, yeah, oh, what, who? You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're composed, you're always put together, and we're not always put together. We're parents. This is real life here. But if you let it go to voicemail, let them ask the question, then you can go back and you can check all your notes and everything to make sure that you are coming back with strong, solid response to their request. Okay. Again, keep in mind that the more familiar you are with the law, which is the IDEA, and how to find what you need to find in that law, the more people in that meeting will believe that you do know the law. I don't want you to go in there and quote, oh, well, in subsection 14 of the 225 code. I don't do that. But if you go in there and you just present yourself as knowledgeable, you're not asking for the world, you're asking for an appropriate education for your child, they'll get it. They'll think, okay, this is a great team player. Let's make this work. I find that the most disheartening things that I hear when I get an 800 call through the Hands and Voices phone number, and I hear someone say, my school district doesn't want to do anything, I need this, this, and this, and they're not willing to do anything, and I just back them up and I say, okay, tell me what happened. How did the conversation go? Well, I am not taking anything from them. If they don't do what I want, well, obviously I know what happened in that phone conversation. And what happened on the side of the school district? They got their back up. All of a sudden, they're annoyed. Someone's yelling at me. I'm not doing anything for them. It is the worst thing you can do. Try and leave your temper at home. Believe me, I'm a redhead. I have the worst temper, but when it comes to my kid, I leave my temper at home. It's not the time or the place for it. So try your hardest to keep your composure. We need to really, really show our best face at these meetings and in any contact that we have with the school district. It's imperative for your child's educational future. And chances are, more often than not, you're speaking. The first meeting that you have with a school district is one of 12 meetings you're going to have. And that's only if you only have them annually. If you have them twice a year, hey, you're looking at meeting with these people even more. Yeah, you usually transition from grade school to middle school to high school, but it's still the same players. It's going to be some of the same people. It's going to be people that have all been trained by the same school district. So you don't want your grade school to say, hey, middle school, here comes these people, they're winners. They've just fought with us about everything. You want them to pass it on saying, yeah, they're really level-headed. They've been amazing to work for. That's what you need. So try to keep your temper and your expectations in check. All right. Okay. So as we all know, there are several types of personalities out there. And we need to know how to work with these personalities. And sometimes the reality comes to the point that the person that you're dealing with, her personality and your personality are so opposite. It's so hard to even just say one thing to them. I can't even communicate. I can't pick up the phone and talk to them because they're instantly trying to get under my skin. Then at that point, maybe it's time to find a different mode of communication. Maybe it's time for email, or maybe it's time for your spouse to contact that person, because that can be very, very difficult because there's different types of personalities. There's pit bulls and bullies, and they're going to tell you what it's going to be, and that's that. There's know-it-all and experts. Well, we know what is the right thing for your child, and we know what is best for your child, and we will certainly provide your child with that. They know everything. They're the experts. Well, keep it in your mind that at the end of the day, you are the expert of your child. You are. You know them better than the teachers do, because even though there comes a point where our kids seem to spend more time with their teachers than they do with us, they're not the kid that we know at home. I can tell you that. They sit there, they listen, they do what they're supposed to do, but at home we get what makes them tick. We get that, man, they can go from 0 to 100 just by saying boo to them. We understand those intricacies about our children, and it is our place at that IEP team to share those types of things. So when a know-it-all comes to you and they say that, that's very frustrating. But we need to be the right ones, and we need to say, I can understand what you're saying, however, and then go into what we think. Conflict avoiders, the ones that you say, oh, yeah, everything's yeah, but nothing ever becomes yes. Conflict avoiders. Wet blankets, snipers, and complainers. So we have all these different personality types that you're going to come across. We need to be, I always say in my classes, we just need to be the grown-ups in the situation. We need to go in there making them understand that we are there to advocate for our child, that we want to have a say in what our child's educational future holds. But let me drive home, and I want to finish up so that you can come out with any questions that you might have. But what I want to drive home is the most important thing to remember is to just always control your emotions. We, these are our kids. We love them. They are everything to us. We want them to be successful. I always think of it as this. If I were throwing a conniption fit in a meeting and my child was sitting there, how would I feel? And I think to myself, I wouldn't want my child to see me acting that way about them, because not only would my child think, wow, my mom's a complete lunatic, but they would think, man, I've just made my mom really upset, and I've made them look at they're fighting because of me. I think of it that way. And how would my child feel if they thought that I was that much of a mess because of their meeting? So try not to go in there as the pit bull that's going to get everything that you want. It's just not a good idea. And, try to keep those emotions in check. Are there any questions, or does anybody have a comment, or maybe someone has a story of something that happened to them, possibly in an IEP meeting, maybe just in a parent-teacher conference meeting, or something that, was right or was wrong, and maybe from what they've learned, and I know a lot of you have taken my long 8-hour class, so if there's something that you've learned from that class and you can state, hey, you know what, we did this, but we resolved it by doing this, that would be terrific for the listeners that maybe haven't taken the class, or maybe there's listeners that haven't even attended their first IEP meeting. So those of you that have, please speak up so that they can get your expertise as well. So I'm opening up the line. Who's first? Don't be shy. Wow, either you guys have all taken my class and you are perfect, or nobody wants to talk. What about you, Carrie? Are you still there?
I am. We've had good and bad along our journey. I would say that at the very beginning, I think we went in a little too strong, and our first meeting was very long. It was over 5 hours, which is not typical. And I think that we were just so worried and so stuck on what we wanted to happen that it came off wrong. And so our relationship with the school district started off kind of rocky. But over the years, because we're still with the same school district, it has improved greatly. The special ed director has been with us this entire time up until this last IEP, where she's moved on to a different district. But we've both learned, I think, to have open minds. And I've learned through Andrea's coaching and just growth on my own to take a step back and think things through before I say them. And like Andrea's great comments of letting things go to voicemail so you're not caught off guard. I had a conversation with a school district, with our school district, that was basically off the clock. This call's happening on the weekend, so this call really doesn't count kind of attitude from the district. So little things like that, but again, knowing that too, what you have to have, I guess, categorize your needs and how important they are, and realize that you may not be able to get everything off your wish list, but what are the most important things to you that you might want to lean towards. And so we weren't given transportation, but in the end we were given the location that we wanted. And even though I know that's a no, oh no, I wasn't going to push it. So we made do. But since then, things have, like I said, greatly improved. And in the last IEP, when I was talking about extracurricular activities, they're like, okay, well, if that happens, just let us know so we can make sure that he has transportation home from that activity. And my head was just like spinning, like, really? You'll do that? You'll pick him up after hours kind of thing? So, you know, making sure that you nurture that relationship so that it will carry you throughout the years.
Excellent. One of the things that I've learned also, and this is Andrea talking again, one of the things that I've learned with my own IEPs, and I can tell you, I'll be frank, I've not had too many big issues with our IEPs. The biggest issue that we've had with our IEPs is we find out, 2 months in that they're missing something completely on the IEP, but you almost need those 2 months to even determine that that's been missing. But the one thing that I find is the most beneficial is to go in to the actual physical day of the meeting should really be to review everything that you've already discussed. When we have issues with, say, a therapist that's working with our child, or a goal that just doesn't seem to be pertinent or isn't sitting well, because we always get those prior to. We always get goals. We always get written statement of present level of performance and all of that. And you should always get that at least 10 days prior to the meeting, at the very least 10 days prior. It allows you to look at it and go through it, and you should be well versed in what the child's needs are, where they're showing strengths and weaknesses, so you can go through those. And then you kind of resolve those with the particular therapist or whomever wrote that particular goal, so that when you go into the IEP meeting, that portion of the not conflict, because it's really not a conflict, but the negotiating of getting that goal or that accommodation changed has already taken place. So you're not sitting at the meeting arguing. And the reason that I can do that is because of the relationship that I've made with my school district and with the people that are involved with my child. And it's shrunk, I can tell you that. I mean, my first IEP, when she entered kindergarten, there were 12, 13 people at the table. We just had an IEP meeting about 3 weeks ago, and I want to say there were 5 people at the table. So, it shrinks. It isn't always that big, you and 15 other people. But the more you prepare and the more you're ready for that meeting, the better off you are. And by being a good advocate for your child and by being just, open-minded, they're willing to work with you, and it's easy. And you establish relationships with these people so that when something isn't going right, that phone call isn't uncomfortable. It's actually very easy to make. Hey, I've noticed this is really missing. Are you guys doing pre-teaching on these vocab terms? Because, she came home and she didn't even know what a placebo was. She had no idea. Are we doing this? And sometimes we find out, oops, we forgot to provide those to the hearing aid tutor. We better get those to her. So, but it makes it comfortable because I have that relationship. And I have that relationship because I didn't go in all guns blazing saying it's going to be my way or the highway. I was, like Carrie was. I was very flexible, and I was able to say what I wanted and needed for my child and be able to separate it from my wish list of items for her.
Now, Andrea, this is Lucy calling.
Hi, Lucy.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
When I just had my very first IEP back in June.
Okay.
And I did go to your class, and I did request for the goals to be given to me prior, but I was denied them. I let them know that it was my right to have them, and they just said no, that they couldn't give them to me, that when it's the very first IEP, that they didn't have to give them to me. All I received was, reports of what happened at the evaluation, and that was it. No goals or anything. So I wanted to know if if there was any truth to that, and since I do have some families in the same district that I am now,
yep.
And I wanted to see what I could do for that.
Right. I know. I'm pretty sure that I know what's stemming from that. It is illegal for a school district to write goals prior to the IEP meeting. Mm-hmm. It is not, however, illegal for a school district to write draft goals. So their thoughts were, she's asking me for my goals. And some districts, not most, but some districts may not even compose goals until everyone sits down as a team. So they may not have had them.
Yeah, and because they're like, well, we don't have that. I'm like, I'm not asking for like the finalized goals. I'm like, but a draft, I would want to see a draft. They're like, no, we don't do that. We all gather at the day of the meeting, and we set after we hear everyone, that's when we set our goals.
Okay. And you know what? She's really covering her bottom there. I can tell you that. And that's okay. What you can do at that point is once you establish a relationship, and this is your first one, so you don't have relationships quite yet with the players, with your therapists, and with the teacher. But once you do, then you can contact them and say, okay, we had this goal last year. Are we going to repeat that goal, or are we going to tweak it? How are we going to look at it? And if they don't want to have them written down, okay, because they are legitimately following the law. They're not allowed to pre-write goals, and you don't want them to. But draft goals are truly okay to do, but this is a school district that is not going to do that. So they're right. They don't have to provide you with goals, and if they tell you that they don't have draft goals, then you're just going to have a longer IEP meeting. What you can do in that situation is come up with goals yourself and go in with a set of draft goals for yourself so that your goals are kind of incorporated into whatever they determine as their goals. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so legally they are not required to provide you with goals, and they don't want to. That is, you don't want them coming to the table with, oh, here we are, here are the goals, go ahead and sign here. You don't want that. But, it's not unheard of for them to come with draft goals, and it's not a bad idea. You may find that the next one that they actually do come with some form of a draft goal beforehand. But them providing you with all of those documents that you were talking about, any testing or assessments that were done, that is the legal part of it.
Okay.
Okay. Draft goals, it's easier, but if they're going to play exactly to every letter of the law, then yes, they're absolutely right. They do not have to provide you with those.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Carrie.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being on the call tonight. Thank you so much to Andrea for leading us through this discussion, and we look forward to next month and knowing what accommodations are appropriate for our children. Thank you again, everyone, for being here tonight. If you have any questions or if you want the recording of the call, please just let me know, send me an email or give me a call. All right? All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.